Hello and welcome to A Real Blogger versus Alex Inc. Episode 7. Wow, this is a special day. Not just because I finally made it to the 7th episode of Alex Inc., which means that I get to say my favorite number for the episode of the podcasts, of these TV logs. I've done this so many times with all the different seasons of The Last Man on Earth, of all the different seasons of School of Rock, with the season so far of The Mick. And now I get to say that this is episode 7 of Alex Inc., of A Real Blogger versus Alex Inc. And I'm just so honored that such an incompetent, horrible episode was the episode that I get to attach the 7 to. What was the conflict of this episode? The conflict was that people were going to Alex and trying to get him and his company to produce their podcasts. You heard that right. People were pitching their podcasts to Alex so that he would produce them. Let that sink in. People were making pilots for their podcasts and pitching them to Alex's company so that he will pick up on them and produce them. I've said that the writers don't know anything about podcasting. I've said that this series is so incompetently written and so poorly researched that these guys don't know what it means to be a real podcaster. But now that they have it, where someone is pitching podcasts to get them produced, and they are pitching these strange ideas to Alex so that he will produce their podcast. These writers don't know a single damn frickin' thing about podcasting. I like to keep this a family show. And it really took a lot in me to not go really deep. But that is not how you podcast. Podcasting is an open platform. You don't have people produce it for you. It is something that you do on your own. I thought that they understood that. That is something that Alex was doing all this time. He was making a podcast. He said, I'm going to start up my own podcast. I am going to produce this podcast myself. I thought they understood that is how podcasts get made. You have an idea. You have a passion that you are going to go out there and pitch it and make it your own. You are going to make the podcast. You are going to download Audacity. You are going to get a Rock Band microphone. You are going to put it into a video editor or just upload the raw audio to SoundCloud or whatever. And that's how you're going to get it distributed. You don't go to a network to pitch it. You don't go to someone to produce it for you. They might come to you and say, will you make this show for me? But that is only so that they are saying, I want you to make this for my platform, not I want to make something for your platform. That's not how it works. If you have an idea, you take it to the platform yourself. You make it yourself. And then I figured out what the wife's name is. Her name's Rooney. Well, Alex says so many people come up with all these ideas. Everyone and their mother thinks that they have an idea for a podcast and that they can make a podcast. Yes, they do. That is true. Everyone and their mother can make a podcast. Any idiot with a laptop and a microphone, or even just any idiot with a cell phone, can make a podcast. I was any idiot with a cell phone for a couple years. That's how I was making the Pokematic podcast. Anyone can make podcasts. It's an open platform. It's an open medium. Everyone can do it because anyone can do it. It is easy. It is no barriers. There is absolutely no barrier to entry for this. You don't go to someone to produce your podcast for you. And then Rooney, the wife, she's like, oh, well, I have an idea. And then Alex said something like, oh, no, you can't just, anyone just can't make a podcast. You need to have an idea. You got to have the passion. It needs to be more than just a simple kernel of an idea. Well, Alex, this podcast that I am doing right now started out as just a simple kernel of an idea, and it grew to this. The whole idea of the Pokematic podcast started out as just a kernel of something, of me saying, I ramble a lot when I drive, so maybe I should record myself while I drive. That was the little kernel of an idea of a podcast, and now look where it is. The Last Man on Earth logs, it started out as just a kernel of me saying, I really like The Last Man on Earth. I've been watching a lot of episodes. I got to talk about this. And then it just kind of hit me that, I just kind of want to go into every single episode. It started as a little kernel of an idea, and it grew into something big. When I started this 9 years ago, it started with me seeing the Christian community on YouTube and the whole idea of, oh, Harry Potter is evil. I'm just like, well, no, Harry Potter's not evil. I am a Christian. I am Catholic. I love the Harry Potter franchise because Harry Potter teaches a lot of important things. I wanted to make a Truth About Harry Potter series. That was the first idea that I actually had. I wanted to get on YouTube in order to prove that. But I couldn't just go on and just say, hey, everyone, I'm a Christian, and you know what? I love Harry Potter, because I needed to prove myself. I needed to prove that I was Christian. I needed to prove my beliefs, and that's why I did the Catholic Controversy videos for about a year, and then I did the Truth About Harry Potter series. And then, as I kept going, I'm like, you know what? I kind of keep wanting to do this. But you know what? It all started out as just a little kernel of an idea. You don't know anything about podcasting. And that was just the first 5 or so minutes. There's more. Because the pitches that they have, they're like stupid or whatever. So many people are coming to them with such weird ideas that, oh man, there's no way that we'd ever be able to do this. There's like this podcast that wanted to be cross species animal friendship or whatever. I can see that the writers want to come up with something that's really crazy and really outlandish and out there. But again, they don't know the first thing about podcasting. Yeah. Interspecies, cross-species friendship. A friendship of podcast about tortoises that befriend birds, or about dogs that befriend horses, or that horses that befriend pigs. It could work. This is the internet. This is an open and free platform for anyone with an idea. Any idiot with an idea can make a podcast about that. And I've seen podcasts. I've listened to podcasts that are like that crazy. Because they're out there. Because there's a market for everything. There is someone out there that is making everything. Yeah, there are some really untapped niches out there that there aren't a lot of people doing it, but everything has been done. And there's always someone that wants to listen to it. Let me tell you, You just got to find out where you got to upload to and how to find your audience. But I've made some really, really bizarre outlandish things. And I've seen some very, very bizarre out there outlandish things. And they all get views. They don't always get a lot of views, but they get some views. There's very few things out there that have no views at all because they have no audience. There's always something out there with an audience. And a podcast about animals, and the animal noises that they make sounds like an ASMR series. Do you know what ASMR is? ASMR is basically just a bunch of background noise that's meant to help you relax. And a lot of people find animal noises relaxing, so long as they're not like the ones that are meant to be angry. But seeing that this is a podcast about then, I could see that being an ASMR series. I can see this being successful. I could see it going. I would greenlight that, even if I were. Because, there's a market for that. It's not a dumb idea. There are no dumb ideas on the internet. The dumb ideas are actually some of the best ideas, because the dumb ideas end up being freaking hilarious and end up becoming memes, which I love. There's a lot of crazy, crazy, crazy things out there. And because they're just so crazy and outlandish, you just can't help but laugh and enjoy it. Because that's what the internet is. It's full of weird, bizarre things. And that animal friendship podcast, it could have worked. It definitely could have worked. These writers don't know a thing. Oh, and then it's like, what happened is that Rooney, she wants Alex to produce the podcast because she has an idea that it's like this unsolved mysteries podcast. And I don't know if the writers think that that producing and running a podcast is the same as running a production studio. The same as running an ABC or an NBC or a Fox or a Warner Brothers or a Disney or a whatever. But you don't necessarily really have the recording studio and the screen time and the airtime and all that. And Alex, he tries to push it off of that he doesn't have the opportunities. And they run into a conflict where it's a realistic conflict of Alex not wanting to work with Rooney, his wife, because marriage and work don't necessarily always mix and whatnot. And Rooney wants him to produce the podcast because Alex is good at that, I guess. I don't believe that Alex is good at that. He hasn't done anything to prove that he's good at it. Everything that I've shown shows me that he's an incompetent fool that doesn't know the first thing about podcasting, and that he should probably be bleeding money and probably should be looking for a day job right about now. But what do I know? I've only been doing this for 9 years. But, I'll just let me suspend my disbelief for a bit. And, maybe if you are successful, people do come to you and say, hey, can you do this for me? Can I help out with this? I want to be a part of it. I want to get you to do this for me. So, I'll let them have that. But what ended up happening is that she was able to make the podcast, the pilot episode, if you will, with her son. And it ended up being pretty good. So what they did is that they proved that Rooney doesn't need Alex, that she could do this on her own. So when they do, at the end of the episode where they have the big fight and they threaten the fact that Alex and Rooney is just like, well, maybe I'll just go do this by myself. Yes, go do this by yourself. It's much easier. You have full creative control if you go do this by yourself. And you don't have to be subject to the network because you're doing it by yourself on the free and open platform that is the internet. And you could do it at home like a real podcaster. Because real podcasters don't need the fancy studios. And it sounded, from what you actually played in the episode where we actually got to see a little bit of an actual podcast, that maybe you don't necessarily need all of that because you were able to get a pretty clean audio going. You were able to have all the edits and whatnot that you needed. And I think you actually set up the meeting with the detective on your own. And you're interested in solving the case on your own. You actually don't need Alex and his team of merry men at all. So why are you trying to get him to produce it for you? Just do it at home. Like you proved that you could. The writers don't know the first thing about podcasting. I thought that they just didn't know I thought the first thing about podcasting was that you film it at home. Then they proved me wrong and said, no, the first thing about podcasting is that you need to have a name. Then they proved me wrong again, and that they think that you need people to produce the podcast for you. No. Just no. This has been Pokematic. Signing off. And bye-bye. Wow. That was something. Welcome to the end card for this special, really ranty episode of A Real Blogger versus Alex Sink. Wow, yeah. So, this was the first episode where I felt genuinely insulted by the writing of just how absolutely anti-knowledge that these guys have about making podcasts. I thought that they just didn't know anything and that they just kind of saw this and watched a couple of MatPat videos on game theory or maybe read one blog about how to make a podcast or maybe listen to a couple of podcasts. But I didn't realize that these guys know absolutely nothing about podcasting. And just the fact that they were like so condescending to the mere concept of so many things that are just inherent truths of podcasting. So yeah, this really, really got at me, and I had to stop it a couple of times just to process the sheer stupidity of the things that were happening in this episode. And that's why I had to take so many small breaks during the recording of this, because I just had to let that information buffer, because it's information and a concept and whatnot that's just, it's something that I could not really even comprehend. The thought of it didn't even cross my mind as to how screwed up this could have been. And the whole idea with the animal podcast, you could have had it where it's this guy with an animal love podcast or an animal friendship podcast wanted to do a collab. And Alex could have been like, oh, that's not really what we're doing. And really, this guy has a couple hundred followers. Really, people want to listen to this? Well, that's weird. And it could have been like that, and that would have been genuine. But no, you say oh, we can't produce this because no one wants to listen to it. Bull. There's an audience out there for everything. Really, there is. And it's just, wow. And then there's the idea that these guys think that podcasts are something that you need to have network backing for. No, just no. I mean, having a little bit of network and doing the YouTube MCN thing, it might help a little bit in order to make things a little bit more financially sustainable, but you don't actually need it. I mean, that animal friendship podcast guy, dude, go out and make it your own. All these people, all the guys that are pitching these things to them, don't try to pitch it, just go out and do it. And that's the thing I got to tell you guys. If you have an idea for a podcast, don't wait around for someone to help make it for you. Just go out and do it. Pull out your iPhone, pull out your Samsung, pull out your smartphone, pull out your dumb phone for all I care. All the ones where I was recording in my car, those were done on my dumb phone. If you don't have a dumb phone, go to Walmart or whatever and get a $15 audio recorder. That's how I record most of the podcasts when I'm out and about. Go to Goodwill or the Salvation Army and get a $5 USB microphone from Rock Band. That's what I have. And then download Audacity on your computer. It's free, freeware application. So yeah, do that. And that's how you make it. And Apple Movie, iMovie, Windows Movie Maker, all the Sony Vegas, whatever editing program you want to use, go ahead and do it. Go out and do it. It's really that easy. Don't listen to these guys. These guys, they know nothing about podcasting. Absolutely nothing. So, yeah. End card things. If you enjoyed this video, consider giving it a like. Kind of threw out my voice. I better go take a lozenge or something. But, yeah, if you enjoyed this video, upvote, buzz, whatever you do, show your love. It also warmed me out. And if you want to see more from me, consider subscribing. I'm on all the different platforms, and I'm uploading it to all the different ones. So, yeah, and if you want to help support the show, I've got a Patreon page for just $1 a month. You can get your name there in that little Patreon credit section. But if Patreon's not your thing, I've also got a Bitcoin Faucet Rotator where you can get free Bitcoin, Litecoin, Dogecoin, and Ethereum. And be sure to check out my website. You'll find players for all sorts of different platforms on there. You'll find YouTube players. You'll find Dailymotion players. You'll find Metacafe players. You'll find Tune.pk players. You'll find BitChute links. You'll find Minds players. You'll find DTube players. And I even have the VidMe player graveyard. And a couple of the old embeds from that couple of days that I was actually on Blip. And do I have anything directly uploaded to the website? I don't think so, but there's other ones out there. So yeah, pick a player and you can start uploading there. You don't need the network. You don't need Alex. Okay, well, I'll catch you guys later, and be sure to check out the previous episodes of A Real Blogger vs. Alex Think. Link below in the description as always. Alright. I'll catch you guys later. Bye. You don't need the player. These guys know nothing.